Okay, good afternoon. Um, in the last couple of days, I was pretty tired and devoted some energy to art. I haven't done microscopic examination for quite some time. Maybe I'll do some today, even though I ran out of slides and almost completely, so I need to buy more. And this requires me to leave the apartment, and maybe I'll do it because even though I'm always under the threat of the police, but I need the slides. What can I do? Um, but So this will be the 10th chapter in the utility saga, but not the last one, because I will want to speak some more about to elaborate on some of the stuff that I've already spoken about. But actually, what happened in the last couple of days that I listened to my own videos and kind of reorganized the information and came to more conclusions that I want to share with you. And much of it is not new and was already discussed in this channel, but with everything that regarding to energy, and I've said it several times in this series. I mean, the issue that relates to energy and were not the main focus of this channel, even though they reappeared all the time, but they were not. This wasn't the main subject. So even though some of the conclusions that I reached, both with regards to the world and to me personally, can seem amazing and incredibly important, probably they are. It doesn't mean that as important as it wasn't my main concern, because I had so many other stuff to think about and still have. So even even in the red, wait a second, there is a creature here that okay. So even if there are kind of in retrospective, it might even seem to me the most important subject, but I couldn't understand from the beginning, the beginning of this scientific endeavor, and certainly not before that, because there are so many things other aspects of this scientific journey and also political understanding of what's going on. So what I will do now is I'll speak about a very cruel aspect of my abuse and my torture that I was aware of since long ago, and I spoke about it even in this channel, but first of all, I didn't know how to prevent it, and I still don't, and this is part of the reasoning of this video is to think, as they say, to think out aloud, what can be the best way to deal with the situation. But again, it's not new at all, and it's already it's just kind of as a separate topics. All of it that were already discussed, but maybe it's time, specifically in light of the utility saga, this series of videos where I organize also material from before. In light of the new conclusions, maybe I need to to rethink how rethink the double meaning, double entendre, as they say. Rethink what's the correct approach to the situation of my own abuse. Also, it should be said that part of it was kind of in response to a video that I've just seen with a thumbnail, what happens after you flush. So let me say that since long ago I suspected that the Israelis they do not only take my semen from me, encourage me, prevent me from having any relationship at all, a sexual relationship, and romantic relationship with females at all, and that I'm conditioned to give them my this something, and toilet paper with my ejaculation. So I at the same time I was it wasn't like, I mean, it was kind of like an obvious thought that maybe they also need my pee, and like, I mean, maybe even like you know, poo, like assessment as they say, but certainly pee that I mean that contain Neros. I mean, that contains the Neros. I mean, it was I mean, as we've seen in so many, I mean, you know, so many experiments. But even before I had like positive evidence for the existence of this robot, I saw like because I started like, I mean, to put like the papers with the semen inside like clay sculpture. I mean, 2 years ago. I mean, before this scientific journey, because I didn't actually watch it like under the microscope in order to suspect that they, I mean, to know that they want it. So the question about P, I mean, also arises, but the problem with P is that, first of all, I wasn't sure that they can actually take it from the sewers. And like I always kind of like doubted that they can do it. And only now I understand what's going on. Yes, they take it from the sewers, but I didn't have the full like picture in my head. Even though, I mean, what was missing was mostly like analysis more than kind of like actual evidence, because I had enough evidence already. But I mean, it takes some time like to make like I mean, to which the analysis, even like if, in retrospect it might sound obvious, but I mean, when you're completely alone and in the dark, you know, so I mean, no one, like, I mean, everyone is lying to you. I mean, it takes some time to conduct like, the analysis to understand what's going on. But now I'm almost certain that I understand what's going on. So, and also I understood that it's incredibly difficult, like, to actually separate the Neros from other material, especially if it's in large volume, like the water, like volume of like of sewers, of standard domestic sewers. So I kind of doubted that they actually do it. But now I'm certain that they actually do it, and I'm not going to pee like the toilet at all. By the way, that's part of the reason why of course they want me in arrest so much, like, so they can control like where I pee, you know, because every pee is precious. And that's also why they, I mean, they infect me with they like, I know for a long time that, I mean, one of the materials that they, I mean, put in my food, like, is kind of like a, I don't know how it's called, a laxative, but for pee, not for poo. Like, I mean, it causes you to urinate a lot. I mean, and of course I suffer from it immensely. And I understood that the Israelis are doing it to me, but then what can you do? You are a slave, like sub-human slave. So now I understand better what's actually going on. And so what's actually going on is that most probably they either, because another kind of a thing that was always kind of like, I mean, baffled me, or kind of like, I mean, surprised me, and it's still something that I don't completely understand, only partially understand, is that it seems evident, and it seemed evident like from the beginning of this study, like 10 months ago, like, and also in the retrospective thinking, it seemed evident to me that they Israelis do not understand the nature of the robots at all. They just don't understand the robots. And maybe most of them, like most of the people in the intelligence community, don't know about the existence at all about these robots. Like, don't know what it is, and certainly never seen like any like scientific, like, I mean, you know, photograph, or like, I mean, you know, any description of it, and I don't care. And this was also a surprise to me, because I understand that they abuse it, and they not only is a drug, but also like in other ways. But how can they do it without understanding what actually it's going, like, what it is? And now I understand better what's probably is going on, because this kind of abuse is multi-layered, of course. Like, they eat every part of the animal, as they said about the buffalo. What's probably going on is that, yes, the drug in itself, the Neros, like the robots, they can be found like mostly in like large concentration in my semen. I mean, if you don't want to eat, like literally eat parts of me, something that they would like to do, and they've done many times in the past for Titan males and females, but especially males were just eaten, like boiled and eaten, even babies. Not in the metaphorical way. I mean, it's kind of cannibalism and Zionism are closely, I mean, linked together since more than 100 years ago. That's what they do in Zion. They cannibalize on sentient beings in a most literal way. Just, I mean, I spoke about it a lot in this channel, so you should know if you don't know. But what's probably going on, like specific to me, because I'm specific. This is, I mean, it's not the same with like others. Like I mean, other Titan females, because I'm most valuable to them as because I have like the yellow robots. Even if they don't understand what it is, they do understand that this is can be used to trigger. I mean, some of them you understand that it can be used to trigger the creation of the red Neros in the bodies of the females. Again, maybe they don't like articulate it that way, but I understand that that's. I mean, like what that's. Maybe they completely misunderstand what's going on. Like I mean, perhaps many Israelis actually think that I mean the version that they sold, like abroad, is actually true in some way. I wouldn't be surprised if it's like that, because it's evident to me that many times intelligence organizations, not only in Israel but also all over the world, they invent ridiculous theories and then they start to believe in it. So I wouldn't be surprised if, like, I mean, if the theory that I outlined in the previous like chapters, they actually believe it. That I mean, then like theory that I mean it completely concentrates on energy. Like I mean that presumably like these creatures, like I mean the aliens, the foreigners, like I mean that they need like energy in order to operate, because they are like heavy equipment machines that require energy, and what sort better energy is presumably than radioactive like isotopes. So that's why presumably when we don't have radioactive isotopes, like I mean they get sick and die or things like that. So I mean we should give them that, but I mean presumably I mean only like I mean like they have like some, not all, I mean understand. So some, again, I spoke about like how the Israelis like understand myself in other series of videos, so I don't want to get into it. Like many hours actually was difficult that I mean like to explain what they think about me, and this is different because I mean there are also people inside the intelligence community, and I mean there is also like a gap of generations. So let's not get into it. But I mean they understand there is, I mean some of them understand there is something like special about me. And maybe the only kind of like I mean understanding is that kind of like I'm a replicator of radioactive material, that they can feed me with radioactive material, something that they do for a long time, and hurts me tremendously. Just one of the many tortures that they do to me, and that it can take like more radioactive material from my pee and semen, and they can presumably sell it abroad, because I mean radioactive isotopes are very rare in this world, but also they can give it to their own robots, like the female robots, and then I mean both abroad and in Israel, and presumably those in Israel, I mean they know that I mean they all it can then like found in their own pee. I mean this is all very vague, because I mean I try to kind of like reconstruct like how barbarians, cannibals, Nazi cannibals, barbarians can, like, I mean, understand the situation, and it might be different between them, and of course they are not allowed to speak about it, so everything is so, like, you know, in the secret, but, so, something along those lines. Of course, this all doesn't make sense, and it's not true. As I explained in the previous video, I mean, you need to, I mean, there are two separate issues here. One, the robots, and second, the radioactive material. And radioactive material should not be present at all in my body or the body of the Titans. It's giving me endless. It caused me pain and sorrow, and it's damaging me and also the Titan females are even affected worse by that, because they are less durable than me. We are not the same species. I'm not a Titan, so they are even more. I mean, this can actually kill them. Like and many actually probably died from that. So it's bad for me, and it's very bad for them. There is no place for that in our body. This is state torture and cruel abuse, and of course we will speak about retaliation very soon. Don't worry about it. I mean, no crime goes without punishment, I assure you, and the punishments are always global. I swear no Israeli specifically will be punished for any of these things. The people of the Blue Planet will be punished for these things. But so just to make it clear, my contamination, my intoxication with radioactive material for many years will not go unnoticed, and you will be punished for it. Much more than what you already have been punished, by, I mean, we took the radioactive isotopes from your ground, but, I mean, what's happened after that will not be retrospectively, I mean, punished by what you already have been punished. Like, new punishment, you will be punished more, and we'll speak about it just in a second. And when I say you, I always mean the people of the Blue Planet. I swear, not one Israeli specifically will be punished for these cruel crimes of the Israelis. The world will be punished. Earth will be punished for this. If you have a problem with that, you would have. If you have now a problem, or if you had problem with that, you would have, or you will move arms and legs. But of course, not an arm is moved and not a leg is moved. Only mouths and tongues. So we will speak about punishments. But let's just, I mean, postpone this in a couple of minutes to just, I mean, explain the situation. As I said in the previous videos, of course I do not require nor need radioactive material in my body. It hurts me a lot, and this is true for the Venusians even more so, for the Titans even more so. But a byproduct of the creation of the radioactive isotopes is either the yellow Neros, my own robots, or the red Neros, their own robots. And this is something that can, I mean, help them cure, actually. So it's both the medicine and the toxin together, bundled together. Now, as I said, and I said it again, the red Neros actually not, even though it's kind of like a cure for them, it's a desperate cure. Like, it's a blood transfusion from an unknown source, just like that, even worse. It's not something that should be done. It's comparable to blood transfusion from unknown source. Something, I mean, that maybe you will actually agree to put in your body, but only in desperate situation when you're bleeding to death. Like, I mean, only then you will, I mean, you will accept it. I mean, in no other circumstances you will not never have any sentient, thinking human being will accept blood transfusion from an unknown source, unless he's about to die. Like, I mean, I must get blood, in all costs, at all costs. So this is kind of the situation with the Neros. Red Neros should not be transferred between females at all. Either even if they are created in laboratory, or if they are created in the body of synthetic blood, or if they were created inside, which is the more common case, they just were taken from the body of other females. They should not be transferred between females. Also, it should be said that I've discussed it in the past. In the plane, I don't think that it's ever happened in Earth. I mean, at least not in the the last 100 years. Let's not think about history, prehistory. I mean, whatever. But I mean, in our time, in the Israeli time, I don't think that ever in Israel red Neros, I mean, were created inside bodies that are not Venusians. I mean, Titans. But in other specifically in Venus, it can be found in other, and I spoke about it not a while ago, that in outside, I mean, in Venus, they are not only created in the bodies of the Venusians. First of all, there is a Nero civilization in Venus, which is completely separate from the Titans. I don't even know if the Titans are aware of the civilization, because it's mostly aquatic. It's aquatic, not necessarily underwater. They build they build something like oil rigs, but larger than oil rigs. That are based on the ground, but stand above sea level, even far above sea level. And I don't think that even I'm not certain of if the Venusians, even if the Titans, that's why it's another reason why I prefer the term Titans to Venusians, because the Neros are also Venusians. Arguably much more than arguably the Neros are more Venusians than the Titans. Okay, so. So this is also, why if you still don't understand why I say Titans, why do I stick to this kind of terminology? So because it's not the same. Titans and Venusians, it's not, these terms do not overlap with each other. It's just not, it's more complicated than that. Titans it's like a life form that can be found in Venus. And also, not necessarily only in Venus. For example, they can be found on Earth as well. And also in Venus, there can be other sentient life forms, like pedophile Israel, like Zionists that, I mean, go there, I mean, to do all sorts of things. Or the Neros, like the robots that, I mean, arguably are even more, like, I mean, Venusians than the Titans, like, I mean, and they build their stuff, that they do amazing stuff, like, over there. And I don't know if they even, like, I'm probably if the Titans know, like the current Titans, I mean, those that actually, I mean, the current civilization, let's, I mean, put the past behind us. I mean, the past is, because there is a huge past, as you know. I mean, the past is, and I need to speak about it as well. And I know many people find it, I mean, extremely interesting. Like, I mean, and I must say again that it's kind of like annoying me. Like, I mean, like, I understand why you find it interesting, and I also find it interesting, and I that's why I started to speak about it. Like, you know, and I should continue. I understand it, but I mean, it's kind of like annoying. Like, I mean, how many people, I mean, are so kind of like, I mean, worried about, like, I mean, so what happened like a million years ago? I mean, we must know, because we don't want it to happen to us now. I mean, people, I mean, they are so, it's so like, I mean, characteristics of Homo sapiens that, I mean, the Romans always, I mean, it was kind of like, I mean, there is a kind of like, I mean, proverb, a Latin proverb, like, it was known since like Roman times, but you can also find it in like other languages and cultures, that, I mean, people only want to owe something, like, for the dead, like, to dead. You only want to be dead to dead people. This is so true. Like, I mean, you never want to owe, to be in debt to someone that is alive. This is so true. Like, both in like practical sense, which of course we don't want to pay it back, so pay back. So, but it's only also in metaphorical sense, it's even more true. Like, people want to learn only, like, from, like, people that presumably lived like million years ago. So, I mean, you wouldn't, like, really need to know them, or, like, I mean, to identify with them. So it's all be like far away. So only then they want to learn from other, like, situation. Instead, but what they actually do not want to do is to learn from the current situation, which is much more relevant to them. Like, what's going on right now in Venus, and what's the problems right now, and what causes them to beat the gutters right now. Because, I mean, after so many years, I mean, they could have, like, rebounded long ago. Like, I mean, what does it even matter? Like, what happened so long ago? What does it even matter? I mean, it's interesting, and I have a lot to say about it, and actually some of it will be very interesting to you to hear. But, I mean, it's so annoying that, I mean, like, like, from the practical sense, like, I mean, both, like, I don't know, since like, actual people that listen to me, that are mostly very practical people, because most of my audience right now, it might not be always like that, but most of my audience right now are people of the intelligence communities of this world, so they are super practical people. Even too practical, like, they don't have any mind, like, they're barbarians. Even not only the Israelis, all the rest as well. I mean, they think, like, I mean, they don't really want to know what's the current situation, because they understand very well that, I mean, that they will need to learn from it, like, and they don't want to learn from living creatures, only from the dead. It's again, it's so human, and the Romans understood it, and it was probably in Latin. Like, that you only want to owe stuff to the dead. Anyway, so yes, there are robots. I mean, the Neros are a civilization in Venus, and not only in Venus, as you understand. I mean, they are all over the whatever. Like, I mean, the universe, as you already understood. But, and also there are, like, Neros in animals, not Homo sapiens, like, not, like, I mean, Titans. That's why, again, Titans evolutions is not the same thing. So I mean, but to the best of my knowledge, all of this, I mean, you cannot find it in Israel, like, I mean, unless it was taken from there, but not, like, in large quantities. So, all of that to say that, I mean, it's not healthy for Titan females to get it, like, from other females, because it can open, like, the possibility of all sorts of infections, like, all sorts of like, I mean, it's not infectious, like, in the human term. It's not exactly the same. I mean, it's a mistake, like, to think of them as microbes, because, I mean, sometimes that's, like, I mean, the most common metaphor that I use, like, since, like, I started this channel, because kind of, like, I mean, I need to start somewhere, so my starting point is biology. Like, I mean, so, I mean, there are so many, like, biological metaphors here, but It's not exactly the same because I mean, many reasons, and most of all, above all, the basic mechanism which allows them to communicate with each other in ways that are beyond physics that are known to humans, and not only to communicate but to imitate each other. And generally it's not safe at all, and it could be cause of many illnesses and problems. Like I mean, to mix, like I mean, neros of not the same family. And when I say family, I mean men and like male and his wife or several wives, but not like more than that. Because I mean, when you start to mix, I mean, and the more the mix, I mean, exponentially it becomes more, I mean, dangerous. I mean, perhaps if it's, you know, perhaps I mean, if like one black female, you know, would take like transfusion of other, like, you know, red robots, I mean, from another single female, I mean, for the purpose of like getting healed because she cannot produce it herself, it wasn't that a big deal. But the problem is that, I mean, the way that it was used in Israel since forever, and probably still so, they didn't even think about it at all. They thought about it, like, I mean, they didn't even think about it because from their perspective, I don't even know if most of them knew that these are robots or entities that they even like bothered to watch under the microscope. From their perspective, this is like, I mean, material, like coffee. And so what do they care if the coffee was prepared in this machine or another machine? Presumably it's just coffee, so they mixed it all. So presumably, I mean, if you get the coffee, if you get like the mixture that contains the red Neros, maybe it contains like, I mean, robots from like 1,000 different females. I don't know. Certainly it was like that in the past, because they didn't have even the concept of like, I mean, of differentiating between. They didn't even know that it's something that, I mean, it wasn't even remotely in their thought. So it's like getting blood transfusion from 1,000 people that, I mean, no one was checked for nothing. Just understand what's going on. That's why it's not like, I mean, a recommended thing. But anyway, that's what's, I mean, actually, this was going on. Like, I mean, when the females actually, both in Israel and abroad, take the stuff. They take both radioactive material that should have no place in their body, and only makes them more sick, and they take like the robots. But let's discuss my own subjugation. So what's actually going on is that, of course, I mean, even though it's probably very difficult to isolate the robots from the pee, it's not that difficult to actually isolate radioactive material from the pee. So what probably happened is that, yes, they can take it from the source, and that's what they probably do. So they use me as replicator for radioactive material, which, as I outlined in this series, became very, very rare, starting in the 1980s. And also, since I don't give them my semen and I'm not in a relationship with any like Titan female, their Titan females, I mean, could not easily, because they can also replicate the radioactive material, but they cannot do it easily. I mean, because they have less and less robots in their own body, because they are not exposed to the brown Neros or to the yellow ones. So they have less and less of the red ones. So they became like, I mean, instead of like, I mean, you know, like generators. I mean, of course, it's also subhuman that they treat us like that. I mean, but just, I mean, from the Nazi perspective, from the crude perspective of humans, like these females became, I mean, instead of like generators of like the energy, they became like, I mean, consumers of the energy, because they need the stuff that presumably only I can generate, because I'm the only one that can actually like generate more Neros, and also every other thing that the Neros can make without input of you know, different kind of Neros. This is the main. I repeated that because it's major. Like, I mean, it's kind of like a tenet that you need to understand, because I mean, so much is predicated on it. Like, I mean, there are yellow ones, red ones, and brown ones. And the red ones and the brown ones are respectively of the females and the male titans, and the yellow ones belong to the cherubs, which is another species, my own species, which is far more advanced and ancient. We are like angels. I mean, no, it's not by I didn't call. I mean, I didn't like. Of course, I did not coin the term cherubs, cherubim. It's biblical term and was known since. I mean, you know, it's kind of like a mythological creature in entity in the Near East. Like, I mean, not only like in Canaan, but also, you know, in Persia, and also I mean, you know, in Assyria, and, you know, and it's like, I mean, like the local dragon. They didn't have dragons like here, but they have this thing. Like, I mean, the Kruvim. Like I mean, but they not necessarily look like animals. They have also like I mean, like the Chinese dragons, they can take many forms. Like I mean, in mythology, like so, it's not really easy to say how they look like. And even like just to say, I mean, it was even actually kind of like a discussion, like I mean, between scribes of the, like Jewish scribes, like throughout the ages, like I mean, thousands of years, like how do they even look? Like I mean, because it's very difficult to answer this question. Like I mean, both, like I mean, if you read like biblical sources and also extra biblical sources, I mean, you don't. I mean, in archaeology, like in Persia, in Iran, or like other places, like I mean, you know, like all like the Assyrian runes or things like that. I mean, mostly, I mean, they get the form like I mean of some kind of sphinx, like I mean, like a creature that I mean is like a head of like a human, but I mean, body of lion and wings of a bird. And many times, like also kind of like I mean characteristics of like bovine characteristics, like that of an ox or a bull. And this is actually somehow, I mean, representative. I mean, this can actually be traced to the book of Ezekiel, like I mean, to the famous Maaseh Merkavah, like I mean, which is kind of like a Kabbalistic name for the first two chapters, and that I mean, starting in 20th century, many people think that it is actually, I mean, one of the first description of UFO encounters. But I mean, I leave it to the audience to assess the validity of such a point of view. No, it wasn't a UFO encounter actually. I speak about the book of Ezekiel some other time, although from time to time I quote it. Like it's a very interesting book, like many other books in the Bible. And so yeah, I mean, this kind of like I mean the hybrid, like I mean the chimera forms, like or the sphinx forms, can be found in Iran and also in ruins of Assyria. But it's not only depicted like visual depictions of the creature. Like they can like again like a Chinese dragon, they can take many forms. They can look like humans. Many times they look like humans, and you know, famously, I know, starting sometime in Europe, I don't know, they started to depict it. At some time during medieval history, they become like I mean very favorite subject like in European paintings, like in sculpture and art. And someone saw that for some reason they should look like babies with wings, and so it became very common in Europe, like to paint it like, or to make sculptures of them like of like babies, like naked babies with wings, which is very, very peculiar because it was never depicted like that in ancient times. This is kind of like an European invention. Like I mean, maybe, I mean, of people that were kind of like a twisted mind. I don't know. I leave it to the audience to judge. But just to say that, I mean, maybe if you are European, like you listen to it, I mean, you think, I mean, what the hell is he talking about? Cherubs? I mean, we know this guy. They're like, I mean, babies with wings. I mean, so what he speaks about like humans and like I mean dragons and like I mean, what's it got to do with cherubs? So just to say, I mean, you have like I mean it's also a tradition. I mean, you know, Middle Ages already. I mean, it became like, you know, valid interpretation because I mean that's how they interpreted it. I mean, so yes, I mean, so currently like I mean yes, I mean starting like some maybe 1,000 years ago, it became very common interpretation for some very peculiar reason to think of them as babies with wings. So in Europe specifically, in sculpture, in art, and like I mean, you can see it a lot. Like I mean, like the cherubs, like I mean, as these creatures. But I don't know why when it started to be like that, because I mean it wasn't like I mean in antiquity, like all over the place they were depicted in different ways, but not like that. Like I mean, sometimes just as humans, like simply humans. And although this was the view of some of the people like Chazal, like you know, in Talmud time, like they thought that the Kruvim, they're just like they look just like humans, and you cannot even differentiate. I mean, unless they do some kind of magic. But I mean, you know, if they just by their look, you cannot tell the difference. This was kind of like I mean. this was also very kind of like a prevalent notion, and also we should also mention the the description from the Book of Kings, of the giant ones that existed inside the Holy of the Holies. And presumably there were also smaller versions inside, the mobile covenant, like you see in the temple, like Raiders of the Last Ark. And this was also become like very, very famous depiction of humans, sometimes male and female with wings, kind of the archetype of angels. Because famously they were depicted like two sculptures of those were placed maybe on the top of the Ark of the Covenant, like you see in Raiders of the Last Ark, like small versions, and certainly according to a relatively lengthy biblical description, inside the Temple of Solomon, in huge scale, with with 5 meters wingspan or something like that, very, very big ones. And they were probably humans with wings. So this is another species. What can I say? It's not the same one. Anyway, let's get back to utility. Let's get back to utility scale Neros and to understand what's going on. So, if they actually use me as replicator for radioactive stuff, this also explains why my P is actually a very helpful material for the mutation of huge life forms. Because this was evident to me that, the most successful experiments with regards to the creation of life forms, up until I started to use the crucible, which is kind of like a new approach. But when I used electrolysis, my P was very important component. And also not only with electrolysis, but also using the ecosystem approach, like with the big barrel, that was where I've seen there was no electrolysis, but huge life forms were created over there, tremendous microbes that can be seen by the naked eyes, amazing stuff. So probably what's going on is that yes, the P contains radioactive material that I cannot see under the microscope. I cannot even know it's there, even though I do see the descriptions, like the drawing of these atoms. Because I've already showed you many of those actually, that the Neros actually draw this atomic description of this material. So it's in the P, and probably it is used by it's helped to mutate the life forms that already exist inside this mixture, and that's why we've seen so much huge ones they were just mutants that. Now, I'm not saying that, if you take radioactive material and put it somewhere, you will get Spider-Man. This is kind of a very naive kind of Hollywood understanding of reality. But you should also, take into account that there is another component in this mixture which is very intelligent life form that are called the Neros. So it's not that it's not just that you put radioactive material with microbes and expect to get Ninja Turtles, but you put all sorts of life forms together with radioactive material and super intelligent robots that are expert on manipulating life forms and have tremendous knowledge of life forms, not only from Earth but probably from the prehistory of Earth and also from other planets, and they can do things amazing as they create bees made out of metal. This is a fact. You have already seen 4 of these, and I'm sure that are swarming, multiplying the Earth right now, in the Earth right now. So yeah, so when you take into account the fact that you have that intelligent robots with radioactive material and all sorts of life forms, then yes, this can explain how we created these amazing, mutated life forms that, that's so, huge ones and amazing ones. So, so the question of, so if I don't want to give the Israelis the P, what can I do with it? So the problem is that P has got a lot of volume. So you can always store it in your cabinet for some time before you need to throw it into the trash. And that's actually what I do. And also it smells like pee. That's the problem with pee, that it smells like pee. So in the past I've described it in the channel that I need to find a way to remove the smell. And actually I've had success with that, with homebrew, not like with I've made like I've had all sorts of experiments like where I mean, you know, I placed like in containers maybe with all sorts of like materials. I mean, no matter really what, but I mean, yes, after some time the smell, I mean, were eliminated from the pee, and it was not like that without the material. So it's like I really succeeded in kind of creating homebrew that to reduce the smell. Only there is one concern that maybe what's actually going on is that the ammonia was eliminated from the mixture. I mean, because of the things that I've placed in it, and maybe I don't know. Maybe if it's true, then maybe I mean maybe ammonia is actually helpful. Maybe ammonia is kind of it's like an energy source for the Neros. I don't know. I have no like knowledge in chemistry, and so I'm not sure that ammonia is not needed. But yes, there are ways actually to reduce the smell, which is important if you want to actually hold this stuff. But in any case, I will also need a way to get rid of the water. Because I mean, I don't want I want like small amounts. So one way to do it is like by boiling, but this is actually not a very, I am not sure that I want to boil it, because maybe, I mean, I know for a fact that if you boil it, I mean, you lose Neros. That was demonstrated, that I mean, that if you boil the mixture and like you place like, I mean, you know, like cover on top, and then like wait some time until like the vapors, I mean, they fall like, I mean, to someplace else. This was actually demonstrated in the channel. So I mean, they evaporated and recondensed like, I mean, material contains many Neros. Actually, this is a very good way to actually, I mean, if it's done correctly and like with more kind of like, I mean, more rigid way, like rigorous way, it's kind of like a way to actually like separate the Neros from the life forms, from the heavier life forms at least. This was shown in the past, like to boil it, but I mean, but it should be done very gently. So I mean, so it will mostly, I mean, you know, just I mean, connect to water like on the cover. But in any case, it's proved that I mean you can lose Neros by if you boil like the mixture. So another way to actually reduce the volume of the mixture is by electrolysis. And because you break like H2O to H2O2 and it evaporates if you don't, like, I mean, like build the electrolysis like chamber in kind of like a special way, so it will, like, I mean, be separated, which is one of the first historically, I mean, objectives of electrolysis, even though it's not the only one. There are millions of usages, I mean, different usages. But I mean, if you don't like build the container like in a specific way, it will just evaporate, which is not bad from my perspective, because I mean, I don't care about the hydrogen and the oxygen. I care about the Neros. So this might be the good way. So the problem is that, I mean, when you, and I have quite a bit of experience that when you use electrolysis on pee, on my own pee specifically, it's the only pee that I actually like ever hoarded. So the problem is that if it smells like pee, like if you don't like start the process with kind of like, I mean, the side process of removing the smell, which is probably means, I'm not certain, but probably I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, probably what's going on is that the ammonia is kind of like either like eliminated somehow, or maybe like bonded with other material to create molecules that don't have the smell. I don't know. I would love to get any suggestion on the matter, because it's kind of like relevant, as you understand. But in the past several months, I've had several experiments on the matter. So yes, you can place all those sorts of things within the container and with the pee, and then eliminate most of the smell. I'm not sure what's actually going on. Maybe the ammonia is somewhere, I mean, I don't know, removed. I don't know if it's even possible, or maybe it's like create like molecules that they don't have the smell. Anyway, if you do not do it, I mean, the electrolysis only makes makes the mixture smell even worse. Like you get like condensed feed that, I mean, it smells terrible. And then with this subsequent, like, I mean, session of electrolysis, the smell only getting terrible. And at some point, I mean, the room smells like unbelievably bad. So if I do want to use electrolysis, like, I mean, for the purpose of, I mean, reducing the water percentage of the material, I would need like a way to remove the smell. And this, so the question of, like, I mean, what's the ammonia is good for, if at all, is relevant now. But presumably, if I would like be very, I mean, if I followed, I can do it even this, under arrest and this in this small room. It's difficult, and of course, I mean, I would rather have like apartment, but I mean, that's what I have, and I mean, I'm a prisoner of the Israeli prisoner of war, and more just to understand what kind of cool and conditions I live in and why I live in this cool condition. I mean, and why I mean the Israeli torture me so, because I am the generators, and of course you abroad you buy this stuff, so all of you are, I mean, to be blamed for my condition, as I said many times. So regarding what I actually do with the material, so then what I mean, if all of this will be proved successful, and no reason why it shouldn't, because I mean, I've done all of these steps were already done in the past and were documented here. What I will probably get is a mixture that is probably, I mean, very not very large volume, but very highly dense, both in Neros, but more importantly, in our context, in radioactive material. And now there's a question of like, how do you store it? I mean, can you just put it like in the glass in your room where you eat, and I mean, you can, but I mean, is it recommendable? I mean, it's a question to the open to the public, but also what can you do with it? So, and this here comes like, I mean, here comes the kind of, I mean, your I mean, the audience, like, I mean, like like part in this issue. So we speak about utility scale. So I mean, the idea is like to create utility scale, a mixture of both Neros and radioactive isotopes, and use it. Then I mean, so then what can I do with it? To sell it? Of course not. I cannot sell anything. I'm a slave. But so the answer is use it in kind of like as part of the same project that my main project, like, I mean, which is life forms, of course. I mean, enhance my ability to create new life forms, because with the food comes the appetite. I'm not like, I mean, the fact that I've like successfully created the Full Metal Jacket, and hopefully they now swarm like all over the world, and hopefully they are created also in the bodies of people that ate the drug, which is the kind of like one of the causes, like the curses, like the plagues of humanity that is described in this, lovely. So actually, yeah, let's get back to it. But I mean, what I want to say is that I certainly, I mean, I'm interested in like other life forms as well. Like, specifically, I mean, maybe like, so maybe we can get deeper into the realm of dinosaurs, or I mean, like, lizards or flying dinosaurs, or, but I mean, they're not that viable. Like, I mean, I think that flyers are actually they have much better, like, I mean, like, chance to actually dominate theirs, because I mean, land animals can be just hunted by humans very easily. So as much as I would like, I mean, to recreate the behemoths, from the Bible, it's actually very interesting, because I mean, when you read the Bible, I mean, the description of behemoth, like, I mean, the mythological creature, so it's written like its bones is like copper, which just like, I mean, the Full Metal Jacket. It's very interesting. Like, I mean, the description of creatures that with bones like iron or like copper, which is just like that. But the behemoths, I mean, so there's also the question of sea creatures. But the problem is that I need like a tank for that, which might not be very easy. But yes, sea creatures are something that, I mean, can be nice. And again, I don't like, if I create one like in here, it doesn't really mean that I need to like, I have release it like in the ocean, like free willy. Because if like the Neros already know how to do it, I can tell them to do it like in other places. And thanks to humans, they are all over the world. So there's a question, like, I mean, what do we want to do? But I mean, yes, the main trajectory is, of course, continuing with the Lifeform project. And maybe if I have like this concentrated, like, I mean, like juice, like material that is like mainly like made of radioactive isotopes, it will actually help me to enhance the creation of new life forms, as it was, I think, and this is already supported by evidence, because it was already like that unknowingly in the past, like in this channel, in the channel. And of course, the fact that the Israelis will not get the material is only good, like from my point of view, because I mean, why should they enjoy like my imprisonment? I don't think that people will if people don't care until now, they will not start to care like once they understand that I mean there is, because I mean if you don't care about the full metal jacket, you will not care about like other birds, like I mean, or I don't know, lizards. It's just I mean, you know, interesting like and fun to populate the earth with like interesting animals. But I mean, it's all you already got like the worst kind of thing. I mean, this creature will eat everything, like it will eat everything, and then all the rest is I mean everything else, because I mean most certainly it will destroy every other kind of like bee or wasp or hornet like colony that is in their way. Like they will, because they like to kill each other, and I mean most certainly they will like they're all dead. Like I mean so no more honey for you. I mean probably it's the last Rosh Hashanah that you've eaten like apple and honey, if you are realistic. But no, honey stays a lot of time. So no, maybe you will still have something in your storage for next year, but it's one of the last Rosh Hashanah that you've eaten apples with honey. I'm sure there will be no more honey for certain, and not quite long after that, no more apples. And you don't move arms and legs, but I mean, it can be interesting. So regarding the curse, the plague of the earth. So this is a long-time issue. I mean, not only in this channel, but since long before, like, and it was demonstrated in many of my paintings. Like as I said, it's generally it's in the series of 4, and 4 paintings that are of the same subject, but not, of course, not the same. Sometimes like there are clearly variations. Sometimes like you need to understand like the abstract concept in order to understand like how they are variation, and of course many of these are actually, I mean, reenactment. Like as I said in the previous video, that I mean I understood quite early that in many of the things that I do, including these paintings, I kind of like reenact things that my predecessor have done. Probably my last predecessor, the one from the 1980s, I mean, of the events that were culminating in the 1980s, but maybe of other predecessors even earlier than that, maybe. And that unfortunately I don't know, like I only see like 1 or 2 paintings in my life that I think that might be like the works of this person, but all the rest I don't know where they are. Maybe they are burned, maybe they are kept like in, you know, private hands, or maybe they are, you know, in the like in the storage room that you see in the end of the Raiders of the Lost Ark, you know, like an X-Files storage room of the government, whatever government it is. So yeah, some of the curses are, of course, reenactments, as I mentioned, like the rule of Satan, like the Shildon Satan, like I mean, which is demonstrated by, I mean, what happened since the 1980s, that I mean, people did not want to stop Israel, so the curse made Israel, like I mean, like, you know, they tremendously like enhance their power. I mean, so people will abroad will be like, I mean, depend on them for radioactive material. And it's also true for the closing of the gates, of course, that were closed during the 1980s, but since then there were other gates as well. So I mean, we're kind of looking at repetition. And also the super carriers. I don't know if you remember it, that there is kind of there is like a plague of the earth that called the super carriers. It representative for quite large paintings, like of 3 carriers, and one actually is not a carrier, but a kind of like one of the trident submarines, which is not really Age of Mass Vengeance, fighting like a kraken. So it's a huge, very big paintings. Like I mean, all of that is here, of course. So I mean, so it's got something to do with it's kind of like a metaphorically super carriers. I mean, so it's got to do with the infections of the people that ate the drug, like with all sorts of diseases, and this actually happened. And there is also the curse of the asteroid, the 5 stone asteroids, and this relates both to like the things from the 1980s and for now, because the asteroid is something ongoing, as you understand. The asteroid is not something just, I mean, they are getting closer, and you know, they already hit us, but some more will hit us, of course, and but they are kind of, I mean, but after some time I understood that I mean, it's different. I mean, they are like the plague of the earth that they already were, I mean, prophesied and happened by my predecessors, and there are like new ones that belong more to my time, and now like I mean, we can actually like start to draw the line between them, because there are the newer ones that also, I mean, and I should also make like series of 4 of them, and you know, do the kind of like like write the text like in the app, like in the canvas in the other side, like I mean on the other side, and you know with the fingerprints and all of like I mean you know the ritualistic like I mean drawing, like symbolic drawing, that I should start to stick with it as well, like I mean to start like to separate like I mean to create like a new series of 4 and of course paint more stuff and to paint more paintings of course and so we'll have like new curses, but regarding the nature of the curses, so I mean we already know like what they are. So first of all there is the curse of the locusts. I mean that I mean it's quite obvious to you what are they, and I actually I mean I'll have 4 of these certainly, because one is kind of the pupa that I mean that is there, and yesterday kind of like I mean I did an overall to it, but we'll also have one with eggs and at least one big one of the you know the maybe we should have 2, like maybe one with larva, but I mean I don't know, it's kind of like I mean it's not that interesting like the depiction of worms maybe, but I mean at least we'll have at least one which is the depiction of the bigger one. And maybe like we'll have 2 depictions of the adult, one of like a queen or one of worker, like social worker. And so I mean, and actually this is kind of like a modern curse, even though I mean modern by the fact that I mean it's something that relates to our time and to me specifically and not to my predecessor, but it's I mean one could argue that as a plague in itself, locusts I mean is not that modern. It's actually not modern at all. It's actually one of the original 10. So yes, but we also have another one which is, I mean, it's not actually a new idea, and I even spoke about it in this blog several months ago at least. I don't know if you heard about it, but I mean, it's kind of, this is a very new one, and but the more I think about it, like I mean, the more I think that it's actually very needed and required, even though it might, of all of the curses of the earth, it might sound like the most ridiculous or gregarious to my listeners. But I mean, I think the more I think about it, the more I like it, and I think that I mean we should make a painting, like a series of painting of it. And also I should say that I should also say that I do not need to start from scratch, because I already have at least 2 morbid depiction of the moon. Like I mean, actually in black and white that I really like. And maybe I'll show it to you if you haven't seen it already. It's kind of, it's all rolled in this closet, of course. But I have like very like pretty large, not very large, pretty large. I mean, depiction of the moon in black and white, of course. That, but I mean, it looks like the moon, but it's not exactly like a moon. It's not like I mean the photorealistic depiction of the moon. It's kind of like I mean a morbid, like, or you know, kind of like I mean like a horror description of the moon. So the idea is, as I told you yesterday in one of the videos, but although it's something that I already thought about like years ago, and I mean I spoke about it in this channel as well, like a couple of months ago, is to transfer the moon, like Luna, specifically Luna, like the Earth's moon, to Venus. And this is for 2 reasons. One reason that I didn't understand until very lately is the relationship between the moons and the bicycle mechanism. Because the absolute movement of the moon around the sun, not around the planet, but around the sun, creates something that is similar to the cyclic movement of like a given point, like in a bicycle, in relation to the ground. If you understand what I say. Anyway, you just said that it creates something like a looping, like a chain of loops, that is kind of the symbol of the bicycle mechanism. This allows, for example, the bicycle to be operated in like a mechanism to be used in Earth because of the existence of the moon. Now you could argue that I mean that it's kind of like I mean that it's so I mean so why do this already was a question that somehow was represented in some of the comments that I got like in the for the previous videos, especially from the more, I would say, perceptive viewers or perceptive subscribers that are not very common inside the intelligence communities of this world, but from time to time you can find a person that is not completely barbarian. And actually one of those actually, or several of those actually ask questions that I must say show some kind of merit, which is, and I will answer the question later because it's not very high priority right now, but I do kind of like commend the question, as they say, of like, I mean, why do the Earth have the moon, but the people of the Earth, like Homo sapiens, don't have like the robots in their body, not, at least not naturally. I mean, they can eat it as they do, but not naturally. But the people of Venus like seem to have it naturally, but they don't have the moon. So this is actually a very interesting, intelligent question, and like, I mean, and for the several like people that asked it, I give you like you know, like, I mean, the title of like the Boy Scout of the week or of the month, or the Girl Scout of the month, for this astute, like, I mean, perceptive, you know, view of reality. But I will answer later. There is an answer to that, but I will answer. But I elaborate on that on some other time. Anyway, I mean, there is reason why things are like the way that they are, but I mean, it doesn't mean that they cannot change or shouldn't change. And currently, I've been seeing it makes more sense to move Luna to Venus, not only because of the bicycle mechanism, but even more so because of the original intent. Because I didn't understand the issue with the bicycle mechanism like originally, and I started to think about like, I mean, the transfer of the moon, like, I mean, like maybe like at least like 2 years ago. I mean, and again, you can see it in my art, even in my art. So the idea is, of course, that they require the moon much more than you because they have very long nights. And it will help them, like, I mean, it's kind of like, you know, a secondary light source during the very long nights. And also, perhaps, but this is very, I mean, speculative, it can perhaps slowly help, like, the planet to gather spin. This is very speculative, and, you know, maybe, like, scientists in my audience will kind of, like, shrug, I mean, like, you know, their shoulders to that, like, I mean, but, I mean, it might happen. I don't know, I mean, exactly how to do it, but I mean, it's more like, I mean, I admit it's more like, you know, a not completely baked idea that the moon actually, I mean, helps like the Earth to maintain its relatively high spin for a long time. And like Venus, because they don't have the moon, their spin only, I mean, deteriorated with time, and this causes the very long nights. So maybe, I mean, it like in the long term, like presence of a moon can actually help Venus to get spin, and then the days will be shorter, and this will of course make life much more easier. And if, I mean, you know, it will like quickly or slowly, I mean, slow the spin of the Earth, I mean, it will only, I mean, kind of like, I mean, you know, it's poetic justice, because I mean, you deserve this kind of fate. So this is a kind of a new at least. So we have at least two new curses, like the locusts and the transfer of the moon. I have another one in my like that in my mind, but maybe I'll speak about it later. So I mean, that's it for now. This is the 10th chapter of the Utility Nero series. But we will have at least another one in which I will elaborate more on scientific issues that kind of like I need to explain, like with regards both to this video and the previous two videos.